Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Bongi and thank you so very much for tuning in to True Crime with Bongi. So today's case took place in New South Wales, all the way in Australia, and the reason why I decided to talk about this case is because when I was reading about it, I realized that this case actually shares a lot of similarities to the case of Anine Boyson, which we covered a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't watched it, I'll have it linked up here in the cards so that you can just check it out and see for yourself. If you watched it, then you'll see as we go on that this video really shares a lot of similarities with the Anine Boyson case. Before I get into today's video, you guys already know that I have to make my disclaimer that I mean absolutely no disrespect to anybody that I'm going to be talking about in this video and all the families that were and are affected by this case. This video is purely for educational purposes and all the information that I'm going to be talking about was gotten off the internet and simply put together into one video. I really apologize if you find anything that I say at any point in my video offensive, because that is not my intention at all. I also want to warn you guys that this case also includes the rape and murder of a minor, so I know that this can be triggering or very disturbing for some viewers, and I absolutely understand if you decide to click out right now. That's okay. I'm pretty sure that I'll see you again in another video that's a little bit more suitable for you. This case may also include very graphic descriptions of the crime scene, or let me just say the victim's body, the victim's injuries, so viewer discretion is advised. With all that being said, let's just get right into it. As I've already mentioned, this case takes place all the way in Australia, in a place called New South Wales, which is on the east coast of Australia, and this case is going to be starting on the 24th of July 1975 when Leigh Leigh was born. Leigh Leigh was born as Leigh Rennea Mears, and she was born to parents Ryan Lean Monsell and Robert William Mears. Between the ages of 4 and 7, Leigh stayed with her grandmother, although we really don't know why that was the case. But when Leigh was 7 years old, her mother and father got a divorce. So she must have lived with the grandmother because the parents were having some marital problems. She moved back in with her mother after her little sister Jessie was born in 1983, and that's when her surname subsequently changed to Leigh. And apparently Leigh really loved the fact that her first name and last name were the same, so she just really loved her name. At the time of her death, she lived with her mother, her sister, and her stepfather Brad in Fellerton Road in Fern Bay, and she had just moved here 9 months before her death. Leigh had attended 3 primary schools, and take it from a person who has attended so many schools that I've lost count, it isn't the nicest situation to be in, having to always leave your friends behind and move to a different school. But anyways, in 1989, Leigh was in 8th grade and she was 14 years old. She was attending Newcastle High School, and according to her grandmother, Leigh really enjoyed school and she loved it. Leigh would spend most of her weekends and her school holidays at her grandmother's house in Caliban Bay, and her cousin, who also happens to be her best friend Tracy, said that Leigh really enjoyed going to the cinema together and that she just really enjoyed roller skating and just hanging out like any other teenager, you know. So there was a student in Leigh's school called Jason Robertson, and he was gonna be holding his 16th birthday party on the 3rd of November 1989 at a surf club called North Stockton Surf Club. So about 60 to 100 people were estimated to have attended this party, and most of these people were year 10 students, so that meant that they were about 16 years old or 15 years old, although at some point during the party it has been reported that there were 2 10-year-olds who were spotted at the party. I don't understand what 10-year-olds were doing at this party because it was held at night, so it's just, yeah, I don't understand why they were there, but they were there. Many of the people at the party were drinking alcohol, they were smoking marijuana, and they were also having sex, although they said to the parents that none of these things would be there at the party. Leigh had gotten a written invitation to attend the party, and her mother had given her permission to go to the party, but to only stay there until 11 p.m. Her mother had also been assured that there would be adults at the party and that there would be no alcohol at the party. Leigh was really excited about this party because it was the first teenage party that she was going to be attending, and she was so excited that she still had her invitation in her pocket. 18-year-old Matthew Webster acted as a bouncer at this party with his friend Guy Wilson, and they were the only people aged over 18 at this party. So I'm guessing that these were the adults that Leigh's mother was told would be present at the party. Leigh was one of the younger girls who were invited to the party, and it was apparently for the purpose of getting them intoxicated and having sex with them. So I don't know whose plan this was, but that was the plan, to get these younger girls drunk and then basically have their way with them. During the party, Leigh and another younger girl were given a bottle of Jim Beam whiskey, which had been mixed with Coca-Cola, and it has been reported that Leigh got really drunk quickly, and this was probably because it was her first time drinking alcohol. A 15-year-old unnamed boy was then heard saying, "I'm going to Leigh," and a few minutes later Leigh was seen going to the beach with him, and witnesses have said that Leigh was so drunk that this boy almost had to carry her to the beach. Matthew Webster, the 18-year-old, was also heard at some point during the party saying to someone, "Hey dude, we're gonna get Leigh pissed and all go through her." So this 15-year-old unnamed boy has been referred to as NC1, but I don't want to refer to him as that, so we're just gonna call him Jim for the purpose of this video. But that's not his name, but we're gonna call him Jim. So when Leigh returned from the beach, she was bleeding in between her legs. She was distressed, she was crying, she was asking people to help her, and a couple of people tried to help her, and they asked her what's going on, and she was reportedly heard saying that Jim had raped her. So I don't know why at this point nobody thought to take Leigh home, or to at least get her as far away from the surf club as possible, but Leigh was still at the party. So after witnessing Leigh's complaints and her distress and everything, Matthew Webster was heard saying, "She's a bit of a slut. Why don't we all have a go at her?" And at this point, 19-year-old Guy Wilson approached Leigh, put his arm around her, and then asked for sex. When Leigh refused to give him sex, Guy pushed her to the ground, and then Matthew joined him, and a group of 10 other guys joined the two older guys. They all surrounded Leigh, yelled at her, and were just kicking her while she was on the floor. They poured beer on her, some of them spat on her. It was just, they were just abusing this poor girl. Although several people at the party did witness this assault, nobody came to Leigh's rescue. Nobody went there to physically help her, and I understand that it could be scary, but why didn't anybody call Leigh's parents, call the police, or run to get help? Why were they just standing there watching? Or even if they weren't watching, why didn't anybody think to ask for help or call for help if you can't help her yourself? I do not know. The assaults continued for about 5 minutes, and when the boys stopped kicking and yelling at her, Leigh got up and walked off. She picked up a beer bottle and threw it at the group, and she missed them. But Guy Wilson picked up a beer bottle and threw it back at her, and the beer bottle either hit her leg or it missed her. That is according to witnesses. So when Leigh got up, she didn't leave the clubhouse. She went back inside to ask for help, and a group of boys followed her inside, and similar assaults continued. And because she didn't really find help, she just decided to leave the clubhouse by herself. She was seen leaving the clubhouse and walking towards the beach at around 10:30 p.m. So 30 minutes before her curfew. Leigh's stepfather arrived to pick her up at around 10:50 p.m. but he couldn't find Leigh. He and several of the partygoers went out to search for Leigh, but they couldn't find her. And after several search attempts, he just decided to go home, where he and Leigh's mother decided to just wait because they thought that Leigh could have went to a friend's house for the night. Leigh's stepfather continued searching for Leigh the following morning, and he was helped by a few of the people who were at the party the previous night. Leigh's body was found around about 90 meters north from the surf club, and when her body was found, she actually still had the invitation to go to the party inside her pocket. Leigh's body was found completely naked except for her socks and shoes, and her underwear and shorts were pulled down to her ankles. Her bra, shirt, and jumper were also found near her body. Her shirt and jumper were intertwined and inside out and were also stained with alcohol, while her bra's securing hook was bent. Both of these just indicated that these items were forcefully taken off. According to police reports, a blood-stained rock weighing about 5.6 kg was found next to her body, and there were blood splatters or blood stains found about 2.8 meters from her body. The post-mortem report stated that Leigh's cause of death was a fractured skull and an injured brain. She had been struck with great force several times, including at least 3 times in the head. The postmortem results also showed that Leigh had asphyxial hemorrhages as well as multiple injuries to the jaws, ribs, liver, and right kidney. Leigh also had fingertip marks around her neck, indicating that she had also been choked before she died, although this was not her cause of death. There was absolutely zero doubt that Leigh had been sexually assaulted before she was murdered, and it was actually also discovered that Leigh, before the night of her murder, was a virgin. So she had not had sexual intercourse before this very, very sad night. I really wanted to get into the details of her injuries, her vaginal injuries, but you guys, I cannot, like, I honestly cannot get into it, but I will leave them maybe typed in the description box, or I'll just leave a link to where you can read all about the details of her injuries, her vaginal injuries, in the description box, so be sure to check that out. But I will say that post-mortem results indicated that Leigh had been penetrated using an inflexible object, which was suspected to be a beer bottle, and that's what caused most of her genital injuries. No semen was found on her or on the crime scene. So the 3 suspects that emerged at the very beginning of the investigation were 3 people. The 15-year-old boy that I have decided to name Jim, Guy Wilson, as well as Matthew Webster. They were interviewed on the 5th of November. 15-year-old Jim admitted to having sex with Leigh, but he said that it was absolutely consensual. At first, Guy Wilson denied having any part to play in this whole thing, but he later admitted to assaulting Leigh, spitting on her, and pouring beer on her. Matthew Webster also just admitted to pouring beer on Leigh and spitting on her and kicking her, but they all denied sexually assaulting her or killing her. Matthew Webster initially told the police that he had went to a pub after the party, but in an interview held 8 days later, he changed the story and said that he just went for a walk. Blood samples were taken from the 2 suspects, and clothing samples were also taken from several of the other suspects, which I don't know who they are. It could be these 3 suspects that we've mentioned, or there could be more. Maybe they were taken from also the other, you know, the group of 10 that attacked Leigh. I don't know, but clothing samples were also taken from other suspects. For a while, there were some rumors that Leigh Leigh had actually been murdered and raped by her stepfather, and that he had been having sex with her several times before then. But if you remember, the postmortem did say that Leigh was absolutely a virgin before the night in question. So I'm thinking that these rumors just ended. But I'm pretty sure that the community did believe that these rumors were true, because I don't know about you guys, but I feel like in every community we live by this thing of guilty until proven innocent. So once you hear a rumor about somebody, you just automatically think, oh he's guilty or she's guilty, until it is proven by the police or the justice system that this person is in actual fact innocent. But there will be some people who still think that this person is guilty even after he has been proven innocent. These rumors and suspicions stayed on right until Matthew Webster was arrested and charged with Leigh Leigh's murder. On the 16th of November, Matthew Webster pleaded guilty to assaulting Leigh and also providing cannabis to a minor or minors. And he was released on bail with his sentencing scheduled for the 21st of February 1990. On the 19th of January 1990, Guy Wilson pleaded guilty to assaulting Leigh, and he was also released on bail. On the 28th of January, after being taunted by 4 boys regarding Leigh's murder, Matthew Webster assaulted one of them. On the 31st of January, Brad ran into Guy Wilson and he punched him in the head 3 times after Guy Wilson allegedly said to him that he would be coming for Leigh's younger sister next. Brad Sherman was charged with the assault and he pleaded guilty to it. On the 16th of February 1990, during his 3rd interview with the police, Matthew Webster admitted to killing Leigh. In the transcript of the interview, Matthew initially denied killing Leigh, but then without even being asked about it, he just said, well, I did it. It's unbelievable. I can't believe it happened, but it happened. That's not a direct quote, by the way, but it's close enough. He then stated that he saw Leigh while he was going to look for his stash of beers. She was still walking towards the beach. He then approached her and they walked towards the salt bushes together. When they got there, he took off her clothes and then stuck a finger inside her vagina. He stated that he got angry when Leigh rebuffed him, and that's when he choked her for a while before using the rock to kill her. He then said that his main reason for killing Leigh was that he was scared that she would tell on him for trying to rape her. So he was arrested, and after spending a weekend in the police cell, he appeared in court on the 19th of February where he was denied bail. 15-year-old Jim was the first to be sentenced on the 28th of February after pleading guilty to having sex with someone under the age of consent. He was given 6 months custody in a detention center. On the 11th of May, the sentence was reduced to 100 hours of community service after it was appealed. On the 19th of March 1990, Guy Wilson was sentenced to 6 months for the assault of Leigh Leigh. Matthew Webster pleaded guilty to the murder of Leigh on the 24th of October 1990. He was sentenced to 20 years imprisonment but would only be eligible for parole after spending 14 years behind bars. The judge said that Webster had a potential for rehabilitation, so that's why he was actually given such a less sentence and why he would be eligible for parole after serving 14 years. He was released on parole on the 10th of June 2004 after spending 14 and a half years behind bars. His parole was revoked in November of 2004 after assaulting someone. He pleaded not guilty, saying that the assault was completely self-defense, and so he was put back outside in 2005. He was released in 2005 after the case was dropped due to insufficient evidence. There's a lot of information about this case on the internet. Some of it is offensive. I will leave the link to the websites in my description box, so just be sure to check it out and read up on this case, because there's a lot going on. There's a lot that happened, like in terms of like the media coverage and the aftermath of this case and everything that just happened afterwards. And a bunch of these things are really, really offensive. They offended me as an outsider, so I can only imagine how Leigh's family must have felt. There's a lot of people who said that Leigh asked for it. There's a lot of people who said just a bunch of things that, as I said, are offensive. I couldn't really go into a lot of details, but trust me, in our next videos I will be going in depth when it comes to videos like these ones. I'll be going all out. I'll be getting in and giving you guys all the information that I have. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, I'm pretty sure that you will enjoy this one as well. I am pretty sure I handpicked it for you. If you haven't watched this video, please go watch it right now. I'll see you in my next one.